All right, so today we're going to connect two things you've probably never thought about together. We're talking about the very first words you ever learned and your ability to create success and even luck as an adult. Now, I know it sounds like a bit of a stretch, right? But trust me, there's a direct line between them, and we're going to follow it. And look, this isn't some fuzzy philosophical idea. There is a powerful, scientifically backed thread that links how your brain processed, say, the word hammer when you were a toddler, to the kinds of opportunities that pop up in your life today. So let's start pulling on that thread and see where it leads. Our journey starts right at the beginning with the absolute foundational building blocks of our minds. We're going to dive into how our brains don't just learn language, they actually get physically wired for it through how we interact with the world around us. Okay, so the key concept here is something called embodied language. And the big idea is pretty simple. Our minds don't learn words in some kind of vacuum. Instead, our understanding is deeply, deeply rooted in our physical, sensory experience. So when you learn the word throw, your brain is actually connecting it to the motor action of throwing something. Your mind and your body from day one are completely linked. So to test this, researchers set up this really clever experiment. They had people do a super simple task. Just press a button with their hand as fast as they could whenever they saw a real word pop up on a screen. And they measured the response times for all different kinds of words. Some learned early in life, some learned later. But here's the crucial part. Some of the words were related to hand actions, like hammer or coat, while others were not. And the results, well, they're absolutely fascinating. You can see right here, for words we learn early in life, people were way faster to react to the hand-related ones. That physical connection is literally hardwired for speed in our brains. But now, look over to the right. For words we learn later in life, that advantage totally vanishes. It's like our earliest, most physical experiences give certain words a permanent head start in our brain's processing. So why the difference? Well, the theory is that we learn our first words through direct, hands-on physical experience. You touch a coat, you hold a pencil, right? But later on, we usually learn new words through context, through their relationship to other words we already know. It's a much more abstract, less physical process. It's just a brilliant illustration of how our cognitive foundation is literally built by our hands. Okay, so our mind is grounded in physical experience. That's the foundation. Now, how do we build on top of that? How do we construct a psychologically mature self? What does a well-built mind actually look like when we're adults? Well, psychologists have this fantastic framework for this, and it's called the SAFE model. It gives us 4 super clear signs of maturity. S is for self-awareness. That's the ability to see your feelings without being totally consumed by them. A is for autonomy. You make choices based on your own internal compass, not what everyone else thinks. F is for flexibility. You can actually change your mind when you get new info. And E is for ego resilience. You can bounce back from a setback. And remember, this isn't about age. It's all about development. And the really great news is you can speed this process up. You don't have to just wait around. Here are 3 mental models that can actually accelerate that growth. First, practice second-order thinking. Don't just think about the immediate result of a decision. Keep asking, and then what? See the ripple effects. Second, use inversion. Instead of figuring out how to succeed, flip it. Ask, what would absolutely guarantee my failure? And then, just don't do that stuff. And third, steel manning. Before you argue against a point, first try to build the strongest, most convincing version of the other person's argument. It forces empathy and just destroys lazy thinking. So developing this mature, resilient self is all the internal work. But how does that connect to the world outside of us? Well, it all comes down to the quality of our connections with other people. And that really starts with understanding the purest form of connection there is, altruism. This is a really important question. Think about it for a second. We all help people, but what's really going on in our minds when we do it? Is there an actual cognitive difference between helping someone because you want something in return versus helping them because their success is in and of itself the actual goal? Cognitive science actually gives us a really clear distinction here. When you help someone to achieve your own personal goal, like networking to land a job, that's what's called an instrumental goal. The other person is basically an instrument for your success. But when you value their success as the end goal itself, that's a terminal goal. And that right there is the cognitive signature of genuine altruism. And this quote from the research just sums it up perfectly. True altruism isn't about what you're going to get back. It's about adopting someone else's goal as your own, without it being a tool for your personal gain. And that mindset,
That is the absolute bedrock for building powerful, lasting relationships. So how do we translate this altruistic mindset, this focus on terminal goals for other people, into a real-world asset? We do it by building something called relational capital. It's the tangible, real result of all those genuine connections. So I want you to think of your relationships not just as feelings, but as a resource, as an actual asset. Relational capital is basically the sum total of all the trust, goodwill, and shared understanding you've built up. It's not just about who you know, it's the quality and the depth of those connections. And when that capital is high, it literally becomes an engine for creating new opportunities. And we can actually evaluate this capital across a bunch of different dimensions. It's not just about the size of your network. Look at some of these, like brokerage position. Are you the person who connects different, otherwise separate groups of people? Or what about trust density? How many of your connections also trust each other? A high-value network isn't just big, it's diverse, it's trusted, and it's positioned to create what's called opportunity flow, the actual tangible chances that come your way. So let's make this personal for a second. Just take a moment and honestly ask yourself this question. The number you come up with, whatever it is a really raw, powerful indicator of your current relational capital. Okay, so we've gone from embodied words to maturity to genuine connection and building relational capital. What's the ultimate payoff for all this hard work? Well, it's something that can feel like magic, but is actually a direct result of this whole process, serendipity.
But we're not just talking about random luck here. We're talking about compound serendipity. This is where each lucky break or fortunate encounter makes the next one even more likely and more potent. Your mature, high-trust network doesn't just sit around and wait for opportunities, it actively generates them. It becomes a serendipity machine.
And this, right here, is the big, unifying idea of this entire journey. The internal work you do, developing self-awareness, autonomy, flexibility, and the external work you do, building genuine, non-instrumental connections. They combine to create what you could almost call a serendipity field. You're not just getting lucky, you are actively creating the conditions for luck to find you. We started this whole thing by discovering that our minds are physically shaped by our earliest experiences with the world. But the journey doesn't stop there. The principles of maturity, connection, and capital show us that we can become the active architects of our own minds, and in turn, our own opportunities. So the final question really is, what will you choose to build now?